MetPy version 1.5 is now out. Find out what the new features are and how you can upgrade. Welcome to this week's MetPy Monday. Hello, I'm John Lehman, a software engineer for Unidata. This week I want to talk about MetPy version 1.5. It's out and has some new features that you're going to want to know about. And we're going to look at a few of those, starting with this new example. In the example gallery in the documentation, which now has a dark mode if you prefer that, you can see that now you can use path effects to draw different kinds of fronts. That's something that's been requested for quite a while and is now available. You can also draw scalloped areas in a similar way. Now, if you want to know all the details for what is in this release, you can, of course, go look at the release notes on GitHub, but a few of the highlights are the fronts and boundaries that we've already mentioned, a parser for WPC bulletins. This is going to be the last release to support Python 3.8, so make sure that you're updating your packages and updating your Python install. And the cape and send calculations now use a virtual temperature correction. So that's very important if you use cape and send calculations in the past and you're updating to MetPy 1.5, know that those are going to behave slightly differently. So we always talk about what the new features are of a release, but how do you test that out? How do you make sure that your program is going to work effectively with the new release and not have any issues? Well, we can create a clone of our environment that we're working with and try our programs in it. Now, of course, it's really good to not let technical debt build up. So don't not update your Python install or your MetPy install for several versions and then have a lot of changes that you need to make. Instead, if you stay up to date relatively often, the changes are small and you're always on the latest release, which generally has the best features, bug fixes, and can even have security fixes for packages like Flask, which is a very popular package that we've talked about before on MetPy Monday, and recently did have a release to fix a security issue. All right, so opening an Anaconda prompt here, or just the terminal if you're on a Linux or Mac system. Right now I'm in my base environment, and I have the Unidata environment, which is what I use for doing MetPy Mondays and doing all my meteorological analysis. But I want to create another environment to test, is the new version of MetPy going to break anything that I've currently got? So I can use the command conda create --name. I'm going to call it new MetPy test. I'm going to tell it that I want to clone the environment Unidata. So it's going to take everything in my Unidata environment, clone it, and create a new environment that we can then experiment in, do things like updating to the newest version of MetPy. Also, maybe I want to update to the newest version of Python. I may have an older version in my Unidata environment. So as many things with conda, it takes a little bit as all of these links are being created in the file system to get the environment set up. All right, so now that our environment is created, we can follow the instructions to activate it, just like we would any environment. Conda activate, new MetPy test. And then you can update just some packages, but since this is an environment that we can play with and not really have any risk, I encourage you to run conda update all. This will update everything in the environment, and you'll be running the most recent version of just about everything that's compatible. When it shows you what packages can be updated, of course, you can accept that. It will download, extract, and install them for you. And if you want to see what is actually installed, remember you can always run the command conda list, and that's going to show you everything that's installed in that environment. And when you're done with that environment, let's say everything has gone well, you can always run the command conda env remove --name new MetPy test, and that will get rid of that environment. Here it says, well, you can't do that. we haven't deactivated. So I'll conda deactivate. Now we're back to base. And now we can remove that environment. Again, it just helps keep your system in a nice order. You don't have a lot of environments floating around that you're not using. So the moral of this is MetPy 1.5 has lots of great features that you should check out. Don't forget that you should have an environment file that specifies your daily driver environment that you use, and that you should use the clone command to make a clone of that, test out new packages, new versions of Python relatively often to make sure that you're always staying on the cutting edge in this giant open source ecosystem. I hope that you found this useful, and I'll see you on next week's MetPy Monday.